Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Daniel Chcouri. I'm running a consultancy here in Hong Kong for the last 3 years already. The main project that I'm working on right now is that project that you see in the background. It's called Just Do. It's a project management tool in soft launch right now, but soon going to have much more publicity. You're welcome to go and check it for yourself if you're looking for any project management tool, and you're welcome to ask me questions about it after the talk. The talk today, I came up with the idea for the talk maybe 11 a.m. this morning, so it's not the most baked talk. It's about a side project that I'm working on for some time now. And that project involves some scraping of data related to financial information about US stocks. Now, as a side project, you don't really, because it's a side project, I don't really have a lot of time to invest in it. So I might give it a few hours one day and then get back to it maybe even a few weeks or months afterwards. Now, because it's a data scraping project, I had to find an approach to develop it in a way that I can maintain it over time and keep growing it over time. Because after you get back to something you did a month ago, you might forget even what was the last thing you did and what you want to do with it. Now, I think that it's very relevant to a lot of scraping projects, because when we're doing data scraping, we usually write a tool and we use it for the purpose of the moment. Then we might want to use it in the future for the same purpose, but things start to change. The site that you were scraping or the data sources that you were scraping changed, and now you need to update the tool. You might not even remember how to run it. Okay, so the talk today is mostly about my approach to this problem and what I did in order to overcome these difficulties. So that's the slides for the talk. That's in. So yeah, that's one slide. Yeah. So the goal is to have a maintainable side project that involves data scraping and processing of that data. Now, how exactly I did it is first and foremost, is to use a modular approach for the project, not to use a monolithic approach in which you try to do everything with one software, but instead have multiple of small tools that each one has only one task. Okay? That way, if you get back to the project after a while and the sources of information changed, it's very easy to tell where is the problem coming from. So that's the first thing, a modular approach instead of monolithic approach. In addition, each tool that are written documents itself. What it means here is that when you'll try to run the tool itself will explain to you how to run it. Now, I'll show you that live in a second. In addition, each tool takes care of installing software it requires. So for example, let's say that I have a tool and it needs software such as MongoDB. The tool will, or if it uses MongoDB, maybe the tool needs to set up certain collections on MongoDB or some other things there, some configurations. Each one of the tools takes care of installing and preparing the environment for itself, and either install stuff it doesn't have or let you know what you need to do in order to get it running. Again, the goal here is that when we get back to it a few months or maybe half year later and things doesn't work, it will be very easy for us to tell why it doesn't work, or if you change computer and so on. Now, there is one unified way to run all these tools, which I'll show in a second, and all of them are written in Bash as a starting point. Now, when we're writing scraping tools, usually what we want to do is to get to result as fast as possible. because many times we don't really care about efficiency because we have a specific data source that we want to scrape. If it's not huge, if we don't want to do something similar to Google, it might involve maybe a couple of web pages that we want to download and then do something with them. And because usually the scope is not so big, you don't care so much about efficiency or how long it will take to get the job done. You just want it done. And then Bash is a good starting point because we don't care. With Bash, it's very easy for us to call to other software, to even call to other scripts written in other languages. So if, for example, the project we're dealing with, you find that the easiest way to scrape the data is with Node.js, then you can write a small tool in Node.js, do the processing or the scraping, and then move on. Now let me show you how it actually looks like. Okay. All right, so this is the project that I told you about. As I said, one entry point for everything. That's this console.bash script. When I'm running this console.bash, the script, that entry point itself, it tells me what I'm capable of doing, or what are the tools that I've already written. So you can see a tool called getXBRL, XBRL to JSON. You can get from the name what exactly each one of these tools are doing. Now let's say that I will call one of them. Let's call getXBRL, okay? As mentioned, the tool itself now tells me how I need to use it. So for example, you can see that this running command is coming from the console.bash. The main script announced that we're now running this command, and inside it I get information about how to use it, like here. So again, get XBRL, and then I need to provide a certain ticker and what type of filing I want. So, and here below I even wrote an example. So here I have get XBRL of WFC, that's a symbol of a bank in US, and then what is the type of the filing that I'm interested in. So you can see that all I need in order to start using this tool that I really didn't use for months now is to call this console log get XBRL and then just call one of them. This is let's call this, for example. Now the fetching process begins, and afterwards there are other processes here in the console.bash that will do stuff with that information. So let's look on XBRL to JSON. Now the reason why I show you this one is because you can see that when I run it, it takes care of installing required software for itself. It doesn't even tell me in advance. It's the first time I'm running this script from that computer. So the first thing it does is to fetch from NPM, that tool uses Node.js in the background, fetch from NPM some packages that we need in order to use it. And again, after the tool installed, did the setups that were required for it to run, the next thing is the tool tells me how I need to use it. So you can see here that the usage is to use this console.bash XBRL to JSON and then the file that I want to process with it. So that's in a nutshell the approach. And as you can see, that's a very effective approach to develop scraping tools over time, given that you might get back to these tools after a long periods of time between usages. Okay, now in order to wrap it up, I want to show you how we can actually, in practice, expand this tool. So again, now I'm doing one of the worst things possible is to try and on stage to do something. Murphy laws tells us that it shouldn't work, but I hope that it will be okay. So I want to add, and what I want to show you is how I will scrape this data source that gives me information about air quality from that website using the approach that I just presented to you. Okay, so I'll begin from in the console.bash to add another tool, okay, to add another command. And that command will be I'm separating. This is a very simple task, but I'm still going to separate it into two different commands just to show you the idea here of how we are separating the scraping from the processing stages. So I'll begin from calling one command, get air quality page, okay? And now I'll save it. You can see that immediately after I saved it, if I'll call the console.bash, I'll see here already that new command that I just added. Now I want to, let's start writing this tool. So new file. I'll name this file after the name of the tool. I'll copy most of the most of the basic stuff of this file from another file. One thing that I forgot to mention, because console.bash is my entry point for all the software that I'm running, all the tools that are written here are sharing the same settings, the same environmental variables, and also the same helpers. So I have here a list of bash helpers that does many interesting stuff, like parsing CSV files, parsing dates, and so on. Okay, and when console.bash begins, it starts from loading all these helpers, and then all these helpers are now available to whatever tool we're writing. So, for example, from right now from here we have a blank page, but still I have many good stuff that I can use in order to speed up the development process. So I'll start from copying that part. Okay. Second. Okay. All right. I'll close this. Okay. Now this is not necessary. Okay. This tool is going to use CURL and not links in order to fetch the file, so I don't need this as well. Actually, I don't need that as well. Now this is the main tool. Okay. Now in order to make it interesting, let's see if I can. Yeah. Let's say that we get the name of the city that we want the information about as the first argument for this tool. Okay. So I'll get city as the first argument for this tool. If city is not provided to this tool, we will print the help information. So I'll print the usage information, city name, and I'll print an example for this usage. This is not necessary. It's written one word. Okay, so here we have even an example. The exit code is 1 because this is invalid exit when we're printing the that. Okay, so now let's call the get air quality page. All right, so now you can see here that I'm getting but the tool itself tells me how I need to call it, and with actual example. So not only the usage, but with actual example. I'm calling this example right now. We're basically doing nothing. Let's write the tool. So I'm going to use CURL. I could use wget as well, but just for the purpose. So here it is. And here we just use the city, and we'll print it. We'll put it into And let's say that we'll create a data folder. Make the year. Now the data folder will be created on the folder from of this project. Right now I don't have a data folder, but as I mentioned, the console.bash prepares for me a lot of good stuff. So for example, I know exactly using this variable where I'm running on, in what folder I am. So under main dir, I'll create a data folder, and I'll output the information into here. Let's do it nicely. Data folder equal to that. Right. And I'll output it to a file named after the city. Okay. It will be HTML, so that's it. Now let's call it again. All right, here CURL is getting the file for us. Under data folder, I now have hongkong.html. I had the data folder before. In Sublime, I didn't see it because I excluded it from the list of folder. I want Sublime to index, so that's why we didn't see it there. So here we have the hongkong.html file. I'll cut it just so you'll see what we receive. A bit of a very messy file. Now the next step will be to actually parse it. Now I won't take you through the process of you know what, Sammy, how much time do I have?
15 minutes.
15? Okay. Still, I think it will be too boring to show you how I'm creating another tool again.
You can enter.
Yeah. So what I'll do instead is I will use, in real life, what I would do right now is the same way that I created the get air quality page. I would create another program that all it does is to get as a parameter a data, a page file as an input, and extract from it the air quality value. Okay, but now because we're short in time and it will be a bit boring to do it on stage, I'll just do it directly here. Okay, so after I receive this file, I will use now Node.js in order to parse that file, because Node.js regular expressions are much more effective than what I can do with sed and other tools that provided to me in the Unix environment. So under the tools, I'll create a new folder. I'll name it after the file, after the name of the tool. So for example, sorry. Where is it? Okay, here it is. Under it, I'll create a new file. I'll call it parse air quality page.js. I actually prepared that in advance, but I'll show you how I would approach the problem of getting this information. We know that right now this is the value. Okay, so if I'll do inspect to this page, sorry, not inspect, if I'll view the source of that page, I'll find 72 somewhere here. Maybe the value changed already. We'll see it in a second. Yeah, it changed to 77, I guess. It changed to 77. I want to make sure. No, it's not. Okay, here it is. So this is the tag that interests me. Okay, now you can see that it's easy to distinguish that tag because it has a specific ID. in HTML, in a valid HTML, you shouldn't use ID more than once. I checked and they don't use it more than once. So this ID is using regular expression, we can very easily detect where that number is. I will take the file that I prepared under the y.js. So that I prepared in advance. You can see that all this file is doing is to read the file. The file, I'll have to get that file from as an argument. Give me a second. Did it many times. So that will be my file that I'll pass as the first argument when I'll call this script. And I'll read this file synchronously here to get its contents. And then I'll use that tag in order to detect where exactly I need to look for the number. Okay, and that's the number that I'm going to take, and the console log will print to me that number from the regular expression. So now all left to do is, in theory, I could just put a pipe here and send the data directly into this JS file, but I'll do it here step by step. So I'll call node under, again, the main dir tools. All right, so this is my file, and I'm going to call it with the file that contains the raw HTML file, and that should work. Let's see. So again, I'm calling the same tool again. It didn't work. Let's understand why. Oh, because I'm not calling the tool, I'm calling cut. Here. You can see it here. Let's call the tool. Okay, so I'll start again. Getter quality page. Hong Kong. No output. Let's see why. I'm debugging it together with you. So let's see first if we are getting the contents correctly. We are. So now just left to understand why we don't get the number correctly. Okay, we got the number. The number is over here, this 72. Okay, that's basically it. I'm going to just clean this up tiny bit. The CURL outputs some information that I don't need. Okay, now it's look much better. And make dir, I'll add -p here so it won't complain that it already exists. And this is it. Now we got the number for the current city. Let's try to do it for another city.
Another city.
Let's see if for London we can just get the information. Yeah, so let's call it for London. I didn't write London, correct? London. And here, 69, the same as here. And now, I mean, from here, that's basically it. So that's all I have to share. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer. What?
So this is just a plugin module system. When you separate the scripts, it's no different than stacking them together. It's a fashion, right?
What I try to show here is the approach for development. You're right. You can see it as a plug-in system, but the point is eventually that if I'll come to this tool, let's say a few months from now, I won't even remember that get our air quality page name. So what I want to show mostly is that with this tool, I'm able to easily maintain this project over a long period of time. And in addition, to show all kind of stuff that the environment itself gives me, like all the things that I loaded in advance and the environmental variables and so on. Whether there is anything novel about it, I don't
No, it's not.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It's functional. Have you done other systems that are for the same purpose?
Whether I used not other system for the same purpose, I used that approach in many other projects.
Sure, it works.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. All right. Now we're done. Thank you.
Okay, we also have